Love it. Let's keep the conversations going, keep it flowing. Next up, we have a conversation about the AI agent economy. It's going to be between Jake Brukhman, the CoinFund CEO and founder, and David Sneider, co-founder of Lit Protocol. Please welcome them to the stage.
Thank you so much.
All right. Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Jake.
Hey, David. How are you?
So good.
Well, I guess let's jump right into it. AI agent economy or agentic commerce. I guess maybe we should start with what are AI agents and what do they do?
Yeah, I'll introduce myself a little bit. My name is David Sneider. I'm the co-founder of a project called Lit Protocol. It's a distributed programmable key management network. Essentially what Ethereum does for state by making it decentralized and programmable, Lit does for signing and encryption. And so this is relevant because the general view that we have of agents is agents are just functionally intelligent services. Like machine learning and artificial intelligence has been a part of the applications we use, like behind the Facebook feed, for more than 10 years. And what we're seeing now with agents is these services, which are essentially just applications, being able to perform more sophisticated tasks. Does that map to your definition of agents?
I think so. I think like when I think of agents, I really want to hone in on the agentic part, which means these are really these are not chatbots that I'm kind of going back and forth with. These are kind of autonomous programs that are acting on my behalf and doing useful things and like saving me time. So when I look at maybe like the landscape of agents, the way that they are now, I see like influencer agents, which are kind of cool, but they're not very agentic actually, like for me.
Right.
They're just sort of sitting there tweeting. And then I see like domain expert agents. Like if you guys know AIXBT, this is an agent that is supposed to surface crypto alpha on Twitter or X. And that's a little bit more useful. But again, it's kind of a chat bot. Like I can go back and forth with it and ask it questions. But to me, like the really useful ones are maybe what Giza's doing, which is on-chain agents that help you optimize your yield, roll your perps, trade stuff. And I think it's going to keep going in that direction. Like agents will be able to do more and more and more over time.
Yeah, that definitely maps to my mental model. Some people have described it as wave one of agents are agents that deliver information. So like ChatGPT would be the prime example of a thing that is in wave one. You ask it something, it delivers information. Whereas wave two are agents that do things on behalf of the user or a company. So like in the B2B world, outside of crypto, the main agent use cases are like agents for small businesses that do things like customer support, sales outreach, things of that nature. In crypto, like what Giza is doing with yield optimization, or a number of the agents that are running on the Lit agent wallet for authentication are doing things like creating tokens, optimizing yield, and permanent loss prevention, automatic solving across chains. And there's definitely like a pretty interesting aspect where all of the technological components are here, but the road ahead is around integration, which the agents are also helping with the coding agents. And we're probably only like a month or two away where you can functionally start a business with a prompt. Basically, you say to the agent, you go, mint a token for me, set up a newsletter, set up a Twitter account, make the newsletter only accessible if somebody stakes a certain amount of my tokens. Every morning, send me a text message that has 3 clarifying questions about what the news was from the day before. And because you're familiar with my worldview, because I've been communicating with you for 6 months, publish a newsletter from my point of view. And now I've just created a media company that has on-chain components that I spend 5 minutes on every day, and it's just like a totally new world in terms of novel economic activity and really just kind of creativity and having a unique view on the world or what's happening as a way to generate value.
Yeah, and maybe to jump in with like a lit protocol-centric view, just to talk a little bit about, what are the infrastructures required for agents? I'll say, I've always thought of it as like verifiability. If your agent is managing a lot of money for you on your behalf, you kind of want to have some pretty strong guarantees about what AI model is running underneath, whether it's being run correctly. A little bit of privacy. As someone who runs a company that wants to use AI, also very cognizant of like, I don't want to necessarily upload my proprietary data to Sam Altman's servers. And you actually kind of opened my eyes a little bit today that there's another aspect to the infrastructure, which is maybe more permissions management. So maybe, do you want to touch upon that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you teed that up really nicely. Like, functionally, for an agent that does things on behalf of somebody, there's three components. There's the LLM, which is the brain, which could be either on OpenAI or run in a verifiable way, whether it's with ZKML or TEEs or one of these other privacy-enhancing technologies. There's the agent context and memory. And so some of the work that like Recall has done around encrypting agent memory with Lit, making sure that the user is not bound to a specific system, but can move from model to model to model. And then the third component, and this is where we're really focused at Lit Protocol, is the tools. And so an agent is just this vectorized space. It's just software. How does that LLM then reach out to systems in the world? From the perspective of an LLM, doing e-commerce where you buy flowers for your mother on Mother's Day and doing $1 million transaction on Bitcoin are functionally the same thing. And so the view that we've taken at Lit Protocol is, and this something that we've been working on for many years, is that in all cases in software systems, identity and authority is represented through a secret. Of course, in crypto, that's private keys. In a lot of Web 2 systems, that's the API key. In e-commerce, it's a credit card. On social, it's a password. And so what we built with the Lit Agent Wallet is essentially like OAuth, but for transactions. So you're probably all familiar with what this looks like for data when you sign in with Google and the app says, this app wants access to your contacts and calendar. And then you click approve, and that app can then use your data for that case. The way the Lit Agent Wallet works is the agent runtime, or the app, or the service, these are all kind of synonyms here, says this agent wants to be able to use Uniswap with a daily spending limit of $1,500. Or this agent wants to be able to use your Twitter account, or your credit card, or your Binance account, or your Charles Schwab account to purchase stocks. And so we've really kind of taken this perspective that a transaction is a transaction independent of the state machine, whether it's decentralized or centralized. And we actually think that this is imperative, not just for the people in this room at ETHDenver, but attracting the Web 2 agent developers and seeing decentralized web technologies as a core piece of infrastructure to orchestrate transactions where the end result of those transactions may be on blockchain and may not be, but the blockchain and decentralized web technologies as the coordination and permission layer that kind of becomes like the new iPhone, right? Like as an analogy, you have the iPhone, everybody, or an Android phone, and that's the home assistant. It has your passwords, it has your passkeys, and then the service that you use from the iPhone are all of the apps that you install. And so the agent world, I think the model ends up looking really similar, except it's not a piece of hardware. It's this core home assistant that then you consent to other agents and other services out there in the internet, what people are largely calling the swarm these days. And yeah, we're really excited about that perspective, especially insofar as we can bring Web 2 developers into the Web 3 space without them having to understand the different specifications of the different smart accounts on different blockchains and kind of ratchet up the abstraction stack. A pretty classic move that has happened in crypto for many years, and now in the context of agents.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Let's see. I guess, what does adoption look like, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's still super early. I'd definitely be curious around your perspective here. But we're in Web 2. We're seeing these B2B agents that I mentioned earlier. There's very cool experiments that agents that trade. There's a lot of experiments where you say, "Hey, ChatGPT, what are the best tokens to buy?" I've been really impressed with what the team at ThirdWeb has done, where they've trained a model over all of the EVM chains. That model is called Nebula. Specific models for blockchains are enablers of more sophisticated type of transactions. But you mentioned kind of the social media agents, or what has been characterized as the internet cinematic universe. I think it's worth kind of making the distinction, at least to my mind, the most interesting things that are getting adoption are the most boring things, the things that are just taking a human out of the loop from having to pay attention to something or click a button and just having the LLM do that in its place. How about you? What do you think is going to be the first type of breakout agents?
Well, if I'm being super honest, I think that kind of those types of agents I mentioned before that act on your behalf, they're not really that good today yet. We're obviously on this innovation curve and they're getting better, but I tried Operator the other day to automate some of my tax reporting tasks. It had to go to a bunch of crypto wallet viewers and collect balances and assets into a spreadsheet kind of thing. And I found that Operator made a lot of mistakes. It started to open other spreadsheets in my Google Docs and stuff, and I had to turn it off. But there actually are some very, very useful things that these things can do today. They can source data. On our research team, we ran an experiment where we sent OpenAI deep research to kind of look at token allocations for different projects. And the data that came back was essentially as good or better than what we had done manually, because it went directly to the source, to the published allocations that these issuers have published. Now, as a company, again, we're very cognizant of this proprietary data. And so one way that Web3 agent adoption could even look like is giving you those properties of privacy, or maybe even being able to locally run, an LLM or an agent or domain expert on something that sort of protects you from, leaking this data.
Yeah, it's super interesting. I mean, classically, there's this idea that privacy is not a sellable feature. Certainly, there are cases where it becomes very important. OpenAI.
Well, it's a compliance requirement
yes.
in certain cases.
There's a compliance requirement, and then the interesting question is, do you do compliance up to the state of the world today, which is Web 2, which is to say, okay, cool, we signed this enterprise contract with OpenAI. They've made these guarantees on paper that they're not going to read the data or resell it, or whatever keeps them SOC 2 compliant or whatever it might be. Or what is the reason to move to the next level of verifiability? Certainly when you're dealing with money, that's one of them. But I think there's an opportunity for us as a space collectively to kind of move out of the doom and gloom pitch, which is largely don't trust Web 2 companies because they're scary and bad. And I totally feel that and understand that. But the reality is most people trust most corporations most of the time. And there's really an opportunity to talk about what are the higher order benefits to building the machine intelligent society on decentralized web infrastructure. And to me, it really just comes down to things like collective intelligence, global cybersecurity threat detection. These things only work in an interoperable world, where the benefit of using decentralized web technologies isn't this idealistic one, but is more material, such that we can have better types of applications. And to my mind, using systems like decentralized storage with lit encryption and other encryption methodologies and TEEs and FHE and privacy enhancing technologies is the only way to create intelligent protocols that are functionally owned by no one, a similar property that Ethereum has, but upgradable by everyone.
Awesome. All right, so in the last 2 minutes, why don't we do bold predictions about the AI agent slash decentralized AI space?
Okay, you go first.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm going to make a bold prediction that we will be producing AI models in Web3 that will be competitive with, the OpenAIs and Anthropics of the world. I have some pretty good confidence on that. And I also will predict that that will result in a lot more LLMs out there, a lot more agents, and they will be in this kind of Web3 format.
Nice. Mine is more of a wishful prediction, but I guess the prediction and the hope is that we start to really rival Visa and the Web 2 methodologies of TradFi, of transactions, and the flippening potentially is intimate, but not the Ethereum Bitcoin flippening, but the count of daily transactions being on crypto rails versus on fiat rails, and agents being a driver for that over the next 24 to 36 months.
Awesome. David, thank you so much for this conversation.
Super, Jake. Thank you so much.
Cheers.